I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Please be seated. Okay, do I have a motion to adopt the agenda?
Second.
Motion second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, motion passed. I have a motion to acknowledge the minutes from the November 15 meeting.
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Okay, motion second, and all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, the motion passed. Now we'll go into the public hearing phase of our meeting, and we'll have three separate public hearings because there's three separate items. The first one, do we have a motion to open the public hearing for the resolution introducing local law adopted pursuant to Cannabis Law 131, opting out of licensing and establishing cannabis retail dispensaries within the town of Wappinger outside of any village?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Okay, motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, motion passed. Does anyone have any comments with respect to this local law as part of this public hearing? If you do, please come up and identify yourself and make your comments to the board.
My name's Ellen Flores. I live in White Acres, but I'm inviting Dora Celestino, who has a lot to inform you about opting in or opting out.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Dora Celestino. I am a community prevention educator at the Council on Addiction Prevention and Education. I was asked to come speak here. I'm not sure, because I'm not a town of Wappingers resident. I'm not sure whether you're leaning to opt in or out. So I, again, was just asked to present some facts. And these are facts from other states that have opted in. And just some information, like I said, from states and municipalities that have legalized marijuana and have allowed marijuana dispensaries and on-site consumption facilities in their areas. And again, I'm not either way. I'm not sure which way you guys are leaning towards, but the facts are that 13 to 17-year-old youth living close to a dispensary and who are exposed to marijuana advertising were more likely to report their intent of using marijuana. Young adults living within a 4-mile radius of a dispensary are more likely to use marijuana and experience more problems related to their use. Home prices within less than a half-a-mile radius of the area where dispensaries are fall by 3 to 4% on average relative to controlled areas. The opioid overdoses, fatalities have increased in Colorado since legalization, and as we all know, there is a serious opioid epidemic that our youth is facing. A community's decision to opt out sends a message that this community does not endorse getting high for fun. And it also sends a message that dispensaries, we don't want dispensaries experimenting with our families. Just a little education. This is not, and I love this line, I heard this from the FDA, but this is not your grandmother's Woodstock weed. Over the years, the THC level has increased tremendously. Now, back in back in the 1970s, the THC, which is the chemical that gets you high, the THC level was only 1 to 3% in the 1970s. In 2009, that THC level increased to 9.75. In 2018, it increased from 14 to 14.88%. Now today, the THC level is 18 to 23%, and as much as 90% in concentrates of marijuana, which kids use dabbing or wax. That is an incredible amount of THC. Marijuana, back in the day, people would say, oh, smoke some weed, it'll decrease your anxiety. Studies have linked psychosis, anxiety, depression, and suicide to marijuana and THC. Not to mention driving while you're high on THC. In Colorado, driving while you're high, the level of fatalities quadrupled since they legalized marijuana. So this is what's happening, the mayhem on the roadways. I do have a town official's guide to cannabis here, if anybody would like to see it. I also will be giving out legal weed. It's a pamphlet, so people can read on it and educate yourselves. And it's not medical marijuana that we're talking about, it's recreational marijuana. Today's marijuana is very, as I said before, very high in potency, causes addiction, mental illness, violence, crime, DUIs, and many health and social problems. As I said, legalized marijuana will cause more mayhem on the roads. It has quadrupled. Marijuana results in permanent brain damage to children. Marijuana use before, during, or after pregnancy causes serious medical conditions, learning problems, birth defects. Marijuana exposure to our youth has increased over 600% over the past decade. Teen visits to the ER, marijuana-related emergency room visits in Colorado has substantially risen. The percentage of teens that are vaping now, vaping is horrific. It's not just water vapor. You know, there's marketing strategies. We won't get into that. But youth marijuana vaping has drastically increased. The percentage of teenagers who vape marijuana over the last year has doubled in the past 2 years. 7% of 8th graders, those are babies. 19.4% for 10th graders and 20.8% for 12th graders. Now, when they have more access to it and it's legalized and there's dispensaries right there in their neighborhoods, what stops them from getting it? As more adults use marijuana, so will their children. So, again, if it's accessible, it creates a problem. So my job at CAPE is to educate the community. So I hope I've given you a few facts. Our mission is to promote drug-free initiatives. Our goal is to reduce factors and increase our goal is to reduce risk factors and increase protective factors in our communities. The power of prevention does make a difference in the quality of life in our community. Again, CAPE's priority and passionate objective is to advance our initiatives and goals to provide prevention counseling, community education, evidence-based program, recovery support. We are here for the community we serve. So again, I hope I've given you a couple of facts to consider while you're thinking about opting in or opting out. I can always be reached. The number at CAPE is 845-765-8301, extension 104. If I can be of any assistance for whatever reason, I'm more than happy to. And again, I hope I've given you a couple of facts to think about when considering. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
Doris,
you.
and thanks
Thank
for
you.
your efforts in our schools, and particularly high schools.
And
Much appreciated.
Thanks to Ellen for bringing
Yes.
you.
Any other comments with respect to this portion of the public hearings tonight?
Make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
Okay, motion and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, the public hearing for item number 1 is closed. Next public hearing, I'd like to have a motion on the resolution introducing local law, a local law adopted pursuant to cannabis law, section 131, opting out of licensing and establishing on-site cannabis consumption premises within the town of Wappinger outside of any village. I have a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Second.
A motion and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, motion passed. Do we have any discussions with respect to any comments on that? And Doris, I'm sure your comments apply to that as well. Thank you. Any comments?
I make a motion to close the public hearing for number 2.
Okay, there's a
Second.
motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, motion to close the hearing is adopted. The next hearing that we have tonight is a resolution introducing local law, I don't have the number, of 2021, which would amend Chapter 240 zoning, also Chapter 210 solid waste, littering and storage of garbage, and Chapter 217 subdivision of land of the town code with respect to a variety of matters. I have a motion to open the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, motion and second, open public hearing, all in favor? Aye. Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, motion passed. Anybody have any comments with respect to this series code changes? Yes, sir, Supervisor Ruggiero. Welcome.
Good evening, thank you. I wanted to bring to the board's attention, obviously, the legislation that's in front of the board covers a variety of topics, and one topic of concern to me is the total repealing of Chapter 127 of the Town of Wappinger Code, which is, as it relates to open fire burning in the Town of Wappinger. At the request of the then fire inspector back in the early 2000s, Fire Inspector Mark Lieberman, and with the unanimous support of the Fire Prevention Board, it was recommended to the town board we adopt a local law at the time to outlaw open burning in the Town of Wappinger. The exception being small barbecue pits and controlled fires, and if there's an event like a pep rally or something would be permitted. The idea is that the DEC has the powers to control open burning, but at the time the town had no powers to enforce it or control it, and local neighbors, burning the wrong type of refuse could obviously spread contaminants around the area. And at the time, we were in the middle of a severe drought, and we were very concerned about what an open burning can do. Ironically, years after I left office, my parents actually had to avail themselves of this law. They actually got a new neighbor next door, a very enthusiastic homeowner, and he and his friends decided to burn lots and lots of things in the backyard. And if anyone knows the lots in Rockingham Farm and how small they are and how close they are, and it was early fall and the windows were open because it was a cool night out, and my parents were really smoked out of their own homes. They had to call the fire inspector, issue a ticket, and they had to go to court. Had that local law not been on the books, there would have been no enforcement action or the ability to stop open burning. So I'm very concerned that this is an outright repeal of this law. I don't know if the local firemen have weighed in. I spoke last month, and I appreciate the board's consideration of my comments as regarded to residential expansion in some conservation-sensitive property for environmental reasons. And last week I was at the planning board meeting, and we discussed an amendment by the town board to allow 90,000-gallon propane storage facilities in the town of Wappinger. It almost sounds like maybe you guys are mad at the local firemen. I don't know, but I don't think we're making their jobs easier by this enforcement of this provision. I know there's other sections of this law that have merit and might worth passing, but this particular bill as written, I think, needs to be defeated or not introduced tonight as it has an impact.
As I understand it, Barbara, maybe you can come up and clarify, that's not what we're doing, tonight. So Barbara, why don't you explain?
Sure.
When we first proposed these changes, we were looking at that code 127, and we proposed just some changes and updating to the definitions. And Bill Beal brought up a couple of questions about us being equal to the DEC standards. So because part of this is mostly about the lighting, which the planning board is trying to change for the town so it's more consistent with Dutchess County planning, we decided to just remove the changes. We're not removing the code. We're not changing what's on the books. We will revisit it, and we're just going to, when we revisit it, make it tighter, because we do have a lot of issues with people burning things they shouldn't be. It is very hard for the firemen and the fire inspector. So we're trying to tighten it, but just to get the lighting passed, we actually just removed it from this proposal, and they were just changes.
So this, Joe, was, related to what we had presented before, and then, as Barbara just summarized, commentary, so that the whole, the changes that we had intended to try to make, are not being made tonight. And so there's no discussion and no intention to remove that from tonight.
Because the strike-through document still shows the legislation as being strike-through, so the final, I don't know what's in final form on the council member's desk, supposed to underline new text, strike out old text, and it looks like through the strike-through document, a total repeal of section 127.
So for the record, we'll make it clear. I'll make it clear right now.
It's not included in
that
final form. We just took out the chapter where we're going to make changes, and we're leaving it as it is.
So let me understand, so when you introduced the law, it was 127 in the law?
Yes,
Yes.
All right.
was in the
Are you
proposal to amend.
introducing it without it?
Yes,
Correct.
correct.
But this is the public hearing, so what do we have in the public hearing on the bill you introduced with section 127?
It was reintroduced without
You
127.
need
Right.
to reintroduce it, but then you have to set it in the public hearing on.
Well, that was set at the last meeting.
Gotcha.
Where we
Right.
said
So
at
this
the
is-
last meeting, we would just take that out of the proposal
Right,
to do
Okay,
it
so 127 is still going to be on the books.
correct,
exactly the way it is.
exactly.
So 127, Mr. Ruggiero, is somewhat out of date now, based on the DEC statutes that exist, and also new appliances that exist that you can buy at Home Depot now. There are people buying chimneys and things like that and using them in their backyard in a safe manner. However, there are aspects of that code that can be interpreted as if that is not allowed. So we want to try to tighten it up so that we're not inadvertently hurting the folks that want to cook s'mores in their backyard.
And in addition, we've had other cases, Joe, that are related to open burning in big containers that have caused issues. So our intention is to go back and tighten up some of that, but to keep the core of,
And just to be clear, 127 does contemplate barbecues, outdoor cooking, and
Right.
other things, so I don't think s'mores would ever reference.
Well, the thing is, if people have a campfire in their backyard and they're holding a hot dog on a stick over it, when the fire department arrives,
Right.
technically, we can't tell them to put it out. So we got to tighten things up to be more specific, because that's what folks are doing now. Folks will be out in the back burning their sticks and their leaves, and then we'll,
You're moving in the right direction.
yeah, we'll show up and they'll have a s'more on the end of their stick. So,
I just want to be on the record, I've never opposed s'mores.
well, that's the point of us changing this, to accommodate that.
okay. Any other comments from the public?
I make a motion to close the public hearing for
I'll
number
second
3,
it.
please.
Okay.
If I may, there were comments from Dutchess County planning on the law. And one of the issues that they raised, I guess, was with respect to dark sky. And in looking at the law lists the light levels at 0.0 at the property line, which seems to be, so it's E 240-20, it's in section 3, 240-23E.
I did send the Dutchess County letter to Malcolm.
So the dark sky standard is 0.1, I believe? I don't know if that is the reference that they're talking to. I think it would be virtually impossible to enforce 0-foot candles at the property line. So, I mean, I think there's going to be some light.
It says parking lot shall have an average lighting level at or below 1 foot candles. So it can be at.
No, but what it says is, illumination beyond the property on which it's, so lumens at the property line, so the standard is 0. But the dark sky standard is 0.1 at the property line. Oh, I'm sorry, 0.1
Zero.
adjacent to business properties and 0.05. The brightest moonlight is 0.01 at residential property boundaries.
Is the law also requiring parking lots to have the charging stations in them? Charging stations. Is it the law requiring parking lots to?
This would say that over 30 spaces on commercial, that the planning board would ask them to put in a percentage of charging stations depending on the size of the parking lot being proposed. This is what's happening all over. So we have a lot of the public asking about electric charging stations, since we have so many electric cars, and that is the wave of the future. And even like Mercedes, as an example, just put in 3. So when we looked at the parking code, we felt going forward, if you're putting in a whole large parking lot, it would behoove the company to be prepared to put in some electric charging stations. So there would be, it's 30 plus spaces, and then it's the consideration of 10%. The planning board would have the final approval to waive it to more or less.
Do you know what the cost for a charging station is?
No, I don't.
Is there a standard formula for charging stations based on the size of a parking lot, or how? It sounds kind of arbitrary to me.
So this is saying that parking requirement of 30 or more spaces shall have an area improved or reserved for electric charging stations equal to, or at least an additional 10%. So it's not saying they have to put them in, they have to reserve an area for it. So it goes on to tell them in the infrastructure to put the wiring. What's happening now is that all of these companies, if they wanted to put it in, they'd have to dig up the asphalt to put the wiring in, like they did at Mercedes. Requires cement, asphalt being dug up to bring it into the building. So we're asking them potentially, and this would be up to the planning board, to at least look ahead to put the infrastructure in.
So if it's required, then they would have the ability to put it in. I got it.
Right.
So what would be the determining factor for the planning board to decide?
How many spaces?
So
I
if
think
there's
it's
30 spaces, it would be
3.
3?
10%.
10%, yeah.
So for all new construction moving forward, that would be the case?
Yes, it wouldn't be for companies or commercial spaces that already exist. But in our department, we're getting a lot of calls from different companies about what they have to do to put it in. And then we know from just how much they would have to dig up or trench, at least to get the electric in. So it would be cheaper going forward if they put that infrastructure, the electrical
Up front,
infrastructure
sure.
in up front and piped it in. So if they didn't want to put the stations in, they would be prepared at least at some point should they want them.
But is it really the responsibility of the town to dictate this type of thing, or is this a small business decision?
Well, this is in the parking, this would be under the parking requirements going forward. Just like we can bank a certain amount of parking spaces if they don't want to put them in at first or don't have the room. So it's just another thing we're looking at going forward.
So it's pretty much free charging of these cars, because the person's not going to pay to have their car charged, correct?
I don't know if it talks to whether or not that the company can charge you or not.
Okay, because that is a possibility, that this isn't free because you decided to get an
Right,
electric
it's like
car.
going to a gas
Just like
station, you can't
everybody
get
else.
free air anymore.
Exactly, you don't get free gas either.
Right.
So my point is, why would you get free electricity to charge your car?
I would assume the company, if you were in
I would
front
like
of-
to know
Yeah.
that, if that is a
Well,
possibility.
we're not saying they have to charge or they have to be free. That's not the point of this.
All right,
That's up to
but
the
to help
company.
somebody recoup the cost of installing this too.
I would strongly think that they would charge.
Okay.
Put your
Where-
card in.
where's the notion coming from that we as a municipality have to require charging stations for new applicants? Where does that
Well,
coming
we've
from?
discussed, like, we always see on different publications that come out, it's been discussed up at Dutchess County Planning, talking to our planners, it's big in Westchester, and it's just trying to help all the people with electric cars, especially going forward, to have places. And I personally, it's just me, think that if I'm going shopping and I had an electric car, I could charge it while I'm in shopping. So it's a plus for somebody with an electric car to have it available.
Right, but what about those of us that don't have electric cars?
Right.
Well, there are other spaces, or...
See, I have a lot of questions regarding this particular legislation. I'm going to move to table this entire package. I'd like to hear from our planner on these different aspects before we make any decisions on any of this.
I agree.
Yeah, I agree too.
Thank you, though, Barbara.
Any further, comments on resolution number 3 concerning the zoning changes and other amendments?
I make a motion to close number 3.
And second.
Okay, motion second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, motion passed. We'll move into the resolutions concerning the 3 public hearing items. First resolution is Resolution 2021-152. This is resolution adopting a negative declaration for proposed local law pursuant to Cannabis Law Section 131, opting out of licensing and establishing cannabis retail dispensaries within the town of Wappinger outside of any village.
I'll move it.
Second.
Okay, motion second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, the motion passes. The next item is Resolution 2021-153. This is a resolution adopting local law number of the year 2021 entitled "A Local Law Adopted Pursuant to Cannabis Law Section 131, opting out of licensing and establishing cannabis retail dispensary premises within the town of Wappinger outside of any villages."
I'll make that
I'll
motion.
second it.
Thank you. Motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, the motion to opt out passes. The next item is Resolution 2021-154. This is a resolution adopting negative declaration for proposed local law pursuant to Cannabis Law Section 131, opting out of licensing and establishing on-site cannabis consumption premises within the town of Wappinger outside of any village.
I'll move it.
Second.
Motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, the motion to opt out passes. The next item is Resolution 2021-155, resolution adopting local law number of the year 2021 entitled "A Local Law Adopted Pursuant to Cannabis Law Section 131, opting out of licensing and establishing on-site cannabis consumption premises within the town of Wappinger outside of any villages."
I'll move it.
Second.
Motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, the motion passes to...
Mr. Supervisor, if I could just say one thing.
Sure.
We have opted out of this. We were leaning in that direction anyway, but it wasn't appropriate to say that prior to your information. But I just want to say for the record here, I know a lot of municipalities are having this conversation. I know there's debates on both sides of the aisle on this. But as a first responder in this town who has responded to dozens of overdoses, many of them second and third time, same patient, I want to be careful that we're not sending the wrong message. And I think that by taking this position, we are standing firm on not advocating additional recreational drug use in this town. The wrong message is being sent, and this is my opinion. I don't know how we can, 5 years ago, be outlawing smoking tobacco everywhere in the entire, we're the first town in Dutchess County to outlaw smoking in our recreational parks, and I got a lot of flack for that. I moved that local law, and my position was if you can prevent smoking in Yankee Stadium, you can prevent smoking on Robinson Lane. But a lot of people were against that, and we have taken that position. Vaping, as you mentioned, is a significant problem. There are kids vaping marijuana in the schools right now. Okay, we have amended our park regulations to include vaping being prohibited on the property, okay? And now we take this position tonight. because we believe that this is the right message for this town.
That's right.
I'm not concerned about the tax quote-unquote revenue. I'm not concerned about that. I think that especially having some locations within our town and in our village that already are leaning towards a recreational model, and we know that for a fact because one place actually told us that right here,
Right.
that as soon as this passes, they're going to start offering recreational options. Now they won't be able to, and I believe that's the right message to send. And I understand the notion of decriminalizing marijuana, I get that, but I do not support endorsing marijuana use through local legislation. And again, I've said this before, I don't care what people do in their backyard, in their, at their private property, not around their kids. That doesn't concern me. If they want to smoke marijuana, that's not my business. And certainly medical marijuana has benefits, so don't confuse that. But I think by taking this position right now, we as a town are doing the responsible thing. So I thank my colleagues for, without hesitation, passing this legislation to opt out, both in the dispensary situation and as well as the on-site consumption. So, thank you.
I don't understand where somebody's health comes second to revenue dollars. I'm not sure if anybody here, I'm sure some of you have, seen people die of lung cancer, and it is not pleasant. And people feel, oh, it'll never happen to me. And trust me, one way or the other, it comes back. So I don't understand the logic of this state. So thank you for your presentation also, and I totally agree with my colleague here. Yes.
If I can just piggyback really quick, something came to mind when you said about parks. I was actually with my family, my kids, who are older, but nonetheless, we were at Great Adventure for Fright Fest, and there was a big sign in the smoking area. People were actually smoking cigarettes, and they were allowed to smoke marijuana in this area. And here I am with my kids are not kids, like I said, but I'm looking at all the families around me that have to walk through this. So it's very scary, and I don't know how we came from banning tobacco in restaurants and whatever, to now it being okay, and it's actually up for discussion. So I cannot give you my opinion, but I think it's safe to assume that I'm not okay with it. So I thank you for allowing me to speak, and I'm proud as a Dutchess County resident that you opted out, so I do thank you.
Well, keep up the good work at
Thank you.
Cape.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep.
I'm going to leave these up here, like I
You
said.
can put them right on that table.
Yeah,
Right
put
on
it
that
right here.
If I can
Yeah.
give any assistance in the community, in schools, I give you my number, I'm more than happy.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for taking the
Thank
time.
Next item is Resolution 2020.
Wait.
May I just-
Okay, sure.
So the two local laws were adopted subject to permissive referendum.
Right.
So,
Thank you, Jim. Next item is Resolution 2021-156, resolution adopting local law of 2021, which would amend Chapter 240 zoning, Chapter 210 solid waste, littering, and storage of garbage, and Chapter 217 subdivision of land of the town code with respect to the variety of matters. Mr. Beal, you wanted to make a motion.
Yeah, with all due respect, I just want to move to table this, and this is nothing against the hard work that's been done by our professionals and our staff. I just would like to get some time to review this more specifically. I'd also like to get some input from the town planner on this with respect to some perspective on what other municipalities are doing with the charging stations and things like that. So I'm going to move to table this. I also want to say, though, moving forward, if we can get away from the bundle resolutions, because when we bundle all these changes into one resolution, it becomes muddy, in my opinion. And it's easier for us to focus on, and I know there's when we do these major overhauls, I get it, we have to do that, but if we can, in 2022, if we can try to be more specific for each change to a specific resolution, I think it would be a little bit easier. So I will move to table this.
So I'll second it, I'll make a
I
comment on that.
second it. And I
I'll
would
make a
also
comment on-
like the
go ahead.
planner to come in and present to us on any of these things that come before us, so we understand a little bit better.
I just
Thank
wanna
you,
s-
sorry.
Yeah, it's okay, no problem. I just want to say I agree with Bill. I think that a lot of these times we bundle things, and I'm not a big fan of bundling things. We've got a couple of things coming on the agenda later on where some are bundled, some aren't, and I think what it does is it makes it too vague. So I'd rather be more specific, because again, there's a lot of things under the covers, as we found out today, looking at some of the stuff that came forward, that really need to be, a deeper dive on some of that stuff. So I agree with Councilman Beal on that.
So we have a motion and second. All in favor of tabling?
Aye.
Aye. Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, the motion passed. The next item is public portion of the meeting. So do I have a motion to open the public,
I'll make it.
portion?
Second.
Motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, motion passed. So now, any of the public items, any of the items on the agenda that the public would like to comment on, please come up to the podium and identify yourself and state your comments.
Hi, I'm Marcy Wagman, 50 Old Troy Road. First, I'd like to comment that it's kind of tagging along your previous point. This is an enormous amount of material that's kind of dumped on us on a Friday afternoon and to kind of work through. So my comment is on the resolution to authorize the water tenancy agreement. So there's a bunch of things that I don't understand about this. Beginning with, I don't understand why it's on the Town of East Fishkill letterhead. I don't understand the assertion that the planning board gave a negative declaration approval. I know that's true, but that decision is under litigation right now. I don't understand why we're running service lines to 119 and 121 New Hamburg Road, why those two properties were chosen out of those in the neighborhood. My understanding is that those individuals, those property owners, have not been notified about that, don't understand the implications, or are given any explanation of why there'd be service lines being run to them. So, in my view, I recommend that this vote be postponed until those that are involved in it and the litigation is resolved. And at that point in time, we can discuss this agreement. So, thank you.
Thank
for
you.
your time.
Thank you for comments. Any other comments?
One more.
Good evening, I'm Dan Kohler with Hudson Land Design. I'm here just to reiterate our support for our application for the rezone of the property at 26 Myers Corners Road from Conservation Commercial to R20. I've gone through this with you before, so I don't want to waste any more of your time. But if you have any questions for me, please feel free to ask. This is now an unbundled application specific just to this property, so
Yes.
we appreciate your consideration.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments on any agenda item?
Good evening, Mr. Supervisor, members of the board. Nicholas Ward Willis with Keenan Bean for the applicant Gasland. The item on your agenda tonight. The item is on the East Fishkill agenda because you have appointed conflict counsel, and that's Mr. Wood's office. The negative declaration, while under litigation, it's valid, it's not being disputed, so this board has every right and should rely upon that negative declaration that the planning board adopted after a public hearing and after hearing from opponents and proponents of the project. So it's certainly a valid document that should not be dismissed. As far as running the service lines, that is something that the planning board conditioned and required us to offer. We have not approached those individuals because we don't have an agreement with the town yet per the tenancy agreement. It would be appropriate to have that step first so that when we go to the residents, we know that we have that agreement so we're not wasting anyone's time. The town planning board has examined the water issues, found that it's appropriate, and made those conditions. And it's certainly something that we're prepared to offer to those residents at the applicant's expense at the appropriate time. We also have present with us this evening Mr. Lapine from the Chazen Group, who can answer any questions the board may have about the water tenancy agreement, but we think it's fairly straightforward and is set forth in the documentation and the resolution and agreement prepared by your conflict attorney. And it's an agreement that you've entered into on many other similar occasions, so we would request that you adopt it tonight without any further delay. Thank you.
Thank you for your
Thank you.
comments. Please identify yourself.
Good evening, Christopher Lupine with the Chase & Companies, representing Gasland Petroleum. I just want to add to the two service lines that we were asked to by the planning board to extend to the neighboring property lines. Those particular locations are adjacent to where the water line is being installed, which is beneath a paved access road. Similarly speaking, as you were talking about the EV charging stations, the thought process is installing the connections now and extending it to the neighboring properties so that in the future, if these neighboring properties wanted to participate in tying into municipal water, it would be available to them. Additionally, on that same side of the property that abuts them is a retaining wall that also wouldn't require reconstruction again in the future. So that was probably what went into the forward thinking of extending these connections to the neighboring property. Because the intent is, and just for a reminder for everybody who's not aware, the proposal as part of this water tenancy agreement, the planning board asked the applicant to extend a water line from New Hamburg Road north to the northern extension of their property. It's 560 linear feet. Those two properties, once again, lie adjacent to that where we have a paved access road. So it's easier to provide them the connection now. They also asked us for the rear property in the back that we provide a valve for a future connection in the event that the town wanted to expand their water district.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other comments?
Good evening. Phil Jampertone, Lewis and Greer, on behalf of the owner of 169 Myers Corners Road. I'm hoping that the board tonight will adopt the resolution proposing the change to the COP zoning code, and I'll be here if you have any questions, and I hope you can put this on the January 10th agenda for our clients. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's with respect to the storage, correct?
That's right.
Yeah.
Any other comments? Okay, seeing none.
Motion to close?
I'll second it.
There's a motion and second to close the public portion of the meeting. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, the motion passes. Now we'll go into discussions and resolutions. The first item, which is bless you.
Excuse me.
First item is setting January 10th, 2022 as the reorg meeting. That would also be our first regular meeting. And I think that if everybody's in agreement, then we also can have a resolution right off of the dais. Right, Jim? Making that the reorg meeting.
Yeah, I have no objection to that.
I don't either.
Has there been any discussion about a swearing-in ceremony?
No, we're going to discuss that a little bit later on, but we can discuss it right now.
Well, I was just wondering how it's going to
Yeah.
fit, what the, are we talking about doing it in between, when are we talking
Well,
about?
there was discussion about January 1st.
Right.
Okay, we can talk about it under
Yeah.
new business, then. I just want to make sure there was enough,
Leeway.
yeah, that's fine
Yeah.
then. The
Yeah.
first and the 10th.
There's enough time.
Yeah, no problem.
So, motion second to make that reorg meeting.
I make a motion that we make January 10th, 2022 the reorg meeting.
Second.
Okay, motion second, all in favor? Aye. Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, the motion passed. The next item is we've had discussion about the recycle yard rules and fee schedules. Joe put a lot of it together, but he suddenly was feeling ill.
Yeah, he was
But
feeling
Cooper, I
sick.
think, is prepared to just cover a little bit of the discussion.
Yeah, so this year, there are some proposed changes to make the annual pass now $65 and the senior rate for 60 and over to $45, with our single-use passes now going to be $25. What this would include this year now is household garbage that we included actually last year, eliminating the garbage tickets, as well as including Freon now and those with trailers, because in the past we used to have those for single use or double axle that were $25 and a $30 charge. But with this, we're also giving our residents, the option to actually pay a $15 single-use fee for an alternative vehicle. So we've had some residents who would come throughout the year who, they would who would want to help their parents, who live in the town, who have like a bigger vehicle such as a truck, instead of like a regular sedan that they have, you know, so now they're able to actually do that. Before in the rules, it wasn't allowed.
Dennis is $15 every time they would come in if they have
Yes.
a single, correct?
Yes,
So,
because they would still have with their annual pass, they'd still have their 2 household vehicles that they're allowed, yeah.
and then the annual pass for the younger than 60, and I should say below is $65. So did you guys correct that, the wording on that?
Yeah, you have to fix the wording on the second bullet.
Second bullet?
It says above.
Says above, it should
Says
say below.
above. It should be below.
I know it's,
Okay, yeah, we can,
okay, yeah, just make sure you change
How
that.
about just younger than 60?
59,
No,
and
it says annual pass for those younger than 60
you
and
don't,
above. It should
you
be-
don't qualify, don't worry about it.
Just,
No.
yeah, younger than 60.
And now, is this going to be something that's printed up and handed out to people, or?
yeah, so what would be happening is that if they want it, we could basically make a copy of the rules if it's adopted, and that way people would be able to have a copy. We can even probably put it on the website.
It should be put
Put it on
on.
a-
Yeah, yeah, and I believe it is. I believe the
Amending,
ones we have
amending the
currently on
current
website.
ones, and we do have a brochure.
Yeah, we
hand
do
out
have a
there,
brochure,
it
so
should
we
be-
would like-
And then
adjust the
posting it
prices
outside
and
your
all that.
window as well, right?
Yes.
Yes,
By
yeah,
posting
that's
it.
not a problem, yeah.
And
So-
on the recycle yard sign.
Yes.
Right, I just think that we need to be careful here how we word things, because I don't know if Joe was in a bad mood when he wrote some of these bullets, but the one that says, "The town board reserves the right to revoke a permit for excessive use. The center was designed for casual use by residents, not for those running a garbage pickup business." I don't know if we need to, opine,
No, no.
We should maybe.
I think we need to have the attorney perhaps take a look at these and just tighten it up in a legal format so it sounds more official, because it's almost like Joe's talking to me here in some of these, some of these. I agree with the
Yeah.
flavor of this, but I think that when we say casual use, we got to be careful saying things like that. That sounds very arbitrary to me.
Right, yeah, I know what you're saying, and I agree with you. I think it's just more or less to basically, just prevent the abuse of the recycling center, really, and just, like, it's meant to be for our residents.
But Jim, could you look into the verbiage?
Sure.
And
The one question I have, as far as age 60 determined as of the date of application or as of a particular day of the year? What's the current procedure?
So we usually do it based off the year, so,
As of at January 1?
yeah.
Okay.
Your 60th year.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're 60.
Oh,
They
you-
start
oh,
issuing
yippee.
permits.
I have no
You're
problem.
Yeah, 'cause,
issuing
like,
it now.
if they're like,
They're issuing it now, but effective as of January 1st.
No,
somebody-
what I'm saying is 60, age 60
Oh,
as
yeah.
of when?
I think
January-
January
January
1st.
first.
The year,
January
yeah.
1st.
I mean, you could be 59 and a half, but that's okay.
Right.
We're good.
But if you waited, till you're 60.
So I agree with this. If we can just have the attorney, just like we did for the recreation rules,
Right.
just
Yeah.
have the
Just
attorney tighten it up
fix it.
so it's really monotone.
Right.
It doesn't- I mean, I understand there's some
No,
frustration.
that's the purpose, Bill, is to have discussion so we could,
And do we have a
clear it up.
policy as to what constitutes evidence for residency?
Yeah, we have that, right?
oh, yeah, so basically, what we use is we ask our residents to bring their driver's license and their vehicle registration.
Right.
So I think on there too, it actually gives an example of like, we don't really want PO boxes, but if they have their actual
Okay.
street address with their registration, then it's proof of residency. They can also alternatively, if we have like new residents coming in, they can bring like a utility bill or something to
Yeah.
show that they're living at that residence.
That's fine.
Just didn't get a change of address yet, right?
And again, I understand the rates have to increase again, and if anybody out there in the public wonders why we have to raise the rates, just look at how much it costs for garbage disposal. It's unbelievable. I understand why we can't do electronics anymore. I understand why we can't do those CRV televisions anymore. There's a totally different landscape now than when we started this back under Ruggiero. When there was actually a market for plastic and there was a market for metal. Now everything's upside down. So the rates have had to increase to compensate for the additional overhead cost. However, again, household garbage is now included with this
Right.
annual fee. So I think that's value right there.
To your point, Bill, the monthly charge, or approximate average monthly charge is $20,000 that Royal is charging us a month. We get zero in return, so actually our highway department is taking metals and also batteries and other things out, but it's around 20,000 a month right now.
Yeah,
A little bit increased, Joe, from when you were supervisor.
Yeah, it's unreal.
Other municipalities are charging $25 for a couch.
Right, and I misspoke, not plastic, electronics. There was a
Electronics.
market for electronics back in the day where there is, and as Supervisor Thurston knows, there's no market now in Asia at all
No,
for this.
It's all blocked.
So, again, I'm good. I do appreciate the work you guys have done, because I know you've done a lot of analysis on this to try to make it, streamline it. And I have told residents, again, when they say something to me about the cost, I say, listen, household garbage, 2 bags of garbage per visit are now.
Free.
I don't say the free word, but I say they're now included with your permit.
Same thing with Freon, because Freon, you were paying
Freon
extra
too.
for that. So now you're not going to pay for that in 2022.
So we're trying to evolve here with the times and still offer the program, and thank you.
And we're still looking at other ways to try to reduce the
Yeah.
cost to
Yep,
the taxpayers.
Okay, that's all I had
So
on this
we'll
one.
do
But
that.
thank you, Cooper, very
thanks.
much, really.
Thank
Thanks, Joe. Good job.
I will.
Yeah, thanks. We'll move to the resolutions, the formal resolutions that were prepared in the agenda. The first resolution is 2021-157. This is resolution reappointing the Board of Assessment Review member. This is for Lynn Myers, who has served 10 years, in, the Board of Assessment Review. Christian, would you like to say anything to the board?
Sure. Again, Lynn has been on the board for 10 years. She served as a chairwoman last year because the chairwoman before that had left the board. And, she's really attentive. She shows up to all the meetings. She got a lot of, always has some good commentary, and she's good with the public. And, we only have, if we appoint Lynn, we still only have 3 members out of the 5 that we need. So it's not a desperation, but I think she's an excellent member. Sure. And I would wholeheartedly support
Can you tell
reappointing her.
us, who the members are, other than Lynn? Because we don't know who the 3 members are.
Yeah,
Would you like
because
to have that?
I have asked that the members for the assessment board be listed. I believe Tom Bauer asked you for the names of everybody so we could put it on the website. We still don't have that.
No? Okay. Well, there's definitely a.
No, give him the information so we can have it on the website.
Yeah, that's not a
So
problem.
people can see, please.
I'm saying, we just sent down Joe just got something from the county. They try to verify who our members are.
Yeah,
But
that
we
should
can obviously
be,
put that on the,
that should be on the website
Yes.
every year.
yes. So, and maybe we could put a blurb on the website that we're looking for members. Maybe we could find.
Well,
Yeah, absolutely.
That's fine,
We need to
too.
get that out, too.
So, because
That's
it'd be
fine,
nice
too.
if we find 2 more people, because it's, we ran the board with 3 people last year, and that's not how you want
Yeah,
to do a
no.
board at all.
So I'll move that, it's Lynn Odell, by the way. I'll move
Right.
Lynn
Yes.
Odell be
Oh, I'm
reappointed.
sorry. Yeah, it is. Lynn.
I'll second.
I misread. Okay, motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, motion passed.
And can we also, I don't know if we need to do this right now, but if we can maybe post January 1st, just advertise as we
Sure.
normally would, so we
Yeah.
can fill this Board of Assessment Review.
Yes, it works a lot better when you can get 5 members, because
So
if
the
you,
terms expire end of September, is that correct?
I believe so, yes.
Yeah, so the terms do not expire at the end of the year, they
No.
expire at the end of September.
Right.
So
Even
hers
so,
has
but-
expired, so that's why we're
We have 2
reappointing.
vacancies.
Right.
We have 2 members that aren't expiring,
No,
but we
I-
have, 2
But we
vacancies.
have one that,
Unfortunately, one of our members passed away.
Yes.
Right before grievance day, so
Yep.
that was
That's right.
unfortunate.
Yes,
So-
sorry to hear that.
Yeah.
What's the term they serve for?
5 years.
5 years.
And it's a rolling term, so only one expires per year, so it's always offset by a year.
Just like ZBA, yep.
Right.
But we have to catch it up. We got to fill the vacancies.
Yeah, so
Exactly.
it'd be great if we could find 5 members,
Yes,
so.
we will do
And
that.
is
But it's
there,
not-
is there training involved too? Because you've
The
got
county
your grievance.
the county has a training session every year.
Because we want to make sure they get trained before grievance day, so when they come in and people have questions and issues, we want to make sure that
Right.
people
So
are.
the county puts on an excellent seminar for them every
Okay.
year.
So you should
So-
try to get them in as soon as possible, so they
Yeah.
can, because
Well-
how long is the training? A couple weeks?
No, I think they send you the whole the big book, and then they do a 3 or 4 hour session
Okay.
up at the county.
Let's just make sure they get it, so let's
Yeah,
get them in and get them
last
trained.
one was just like a couple weeks before the training, so.
Yeah, they
Yeah,
always
we-
hold it in early May, because grievance
Yeah.
day is usually late May.
Due to the
So-
circumstances, is it online? Can they take it
I
online?
think last year they did do like a Zoom version,
That would be good to know, to
So-
let them know they could have that option.
so.
Okay.
And
Please.
Lynn will have to take it again, because on
That's
appointment,
good.
on reappointment, you have to take the course again. So this will probably be your 3rd time taking it, but, so.
Doesn't hurt.
It's a requirement, so.
Okay.
Thank
but
you.
Never hurts to learn.
No,
Right.
thank you.
Any other comments? Okay. Next resolution is 2021-158. This is a resolution acknowledging appointment of confidential personal secretary to the town supervisor. This is Maria Giannis. Sandra is leaving. She's moving to Cape Cod. I want to thank her for her service.
I'd like to table this and have legal counsel in executive session, please.
I'd like to call a roll vote right now. All in favor of the resolution?
Well, we motion to table overrides the
Well, okay.
existing. So, I mean, I don't know what the question is. I'll be happy to listen to it in executive session. I have no objection to an appointment, but out of respect for the motion on the table, I will have to position myself on that.
Okay, motion table, all second?
I'll second it.
Aye.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any nays
Thank
or
you.
Abstentions, seeing none, motion passed. Next item is Resolution 2021-159, the resolution acknowledging appointment of deputy town clerk and setting the salary.
I'll make that motion.
So should we, I guess the question is, should this really be part of the reorg meeting, or is this something we can do tonight? Because even though we set the salary in the budget, is that necessarily the salary that we pay out? How do we handle that?
But he wants to appoint him right now. That would be effective right now, before.
Well, that'll be
the reorg.
effective for January 1st, or they're going to be effective now?
Effective now,
So he's hiring somebody, and it's at the
the
salary
vacancy that we have.
that's open.
Okay,
Yeah, I have no objection.
then I'll move it.
Okay,
Second.
motion second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, the motion passed. Next item is Resolution 2021-160. This is a resolution adjusting the salary of the cap assessor. There was an oversight, actually, on the original budget, and it was originally supposed to be 2% split, so it actually was wrongly calculated at 1%, so this makes up for that oversight.
Yeah, so this is the true up then, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's $520 each for both us and Fishkill?
Correct.
Okay,
Additional.
I'll move it.
Second.
Okay, motion second, all in favor? Aye. Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, the motion passed. Next item is Resolution 2021-161. This is a resolution accepting Brentwood Drive and related easements for Hilltop Village at Wappinger Subdivision, together with, maintenance agreements secured by bond. This is with respect to the Toll Estate that's is actually nearing completion. Jim, do you have comments with respect to the bond and the undertaking here?
Sure, so this is for the acceptance of Brentwood Drive, which is the entrance road, which goes up to the Flavormatic property, and then all of the other roads within Regency are private roads to be maintained by the HOA. I reviewed the deeds and easements. Actually, they were prepared at the time the subdivision was first approved. The toll has presented a maintenance bond for 2 years for the road in the amount of, what is it, 93? Of course, I just had it in it. $93,000. $92,491, which is 20% of the cost of the construction of the road. That's for a 2-year period. During that 2-year period, Toll agrees to make any repairs that are necessary should there potholes be developed or defects be found in the drainage or in the highway. And then at the end of the 2-year period, the maintenance bond is returned to Toll. In addition to accepting the road, we're accepting the easements for water and sewer. The town engineers, Camo Pollution, have gone out and signed off that all the improvements have been made for the items that are being dedicated to the town. And then we have the deeds and transfer documents, which have been signed off by Toll. We just have to, tomorrow, I'll get the supervisor to sign them. We'll send them up to the town clerk, to the county clerk. And then there's two bonds that are currently in place. I sent over a revised resolution for it. There's one bond in the amount of approximately $450,000 and another one for $40,000, which represented the bond for the roads, and there's one for approximately $45,000 for street lights and street trees and sidewalks. So upon the tender of all the documents that were provided, we then refund the existing performance bonds, return the bonds back to toll. So that's basically it. And then Brentwood Drive now becomes, at least that one stretch to the turnaround, and the back becomes subject to town maintenance.
And that's the only part of the toll development that's subject to town maintenance.
All right, I'll make that motion.
Second.
Motion and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, the motion passes. The next resolution is 2021-162. This is a resolution awarding a contract for annual maintenance contract for Rockingham Pond. Al, would you like to comment on this?
Yeah, sure. So what we're looking to do, there's a pond over in Regency Drive back there, and we're looking to clean up the pond. So we have a company called Solitude. We've contracted or we're talking to. They're an environmental group, and basically what they do is they look at aquatic weed control, they look at shoreline control, they look at algae. And one of the things we're looking to do, again, is clean the pond up. It's something we've been talking about for quite some time. They take care of all the permits. They handle the inspections. They've actually been on a boat on the property itself, so they've seen what the pond looks like. We're going to use this kind of as a pilot program. So it's a 2-year program. The first year is $4,134. The second year is roughly $4,500. Again, what they'll do is clean it up. They've done a number of properties in New York State, been very successful. A place called Phelan Pond in Columbia County, and also Kenosha Lake up in Ulster County. So they've had some great success there. So in addition to doing this, again, this is the contract. So again, $4,134 for the first year, approximately $4,500 for the second. We're also, again, so we could use this as a pilot program for some of the other ponds and things that we have. The other thing we're looking to do too is potentially put an aerator system in this particular pond. We have a lot of ponds today that have aerators, whether it's electric or solar power. That's something we got to consider. We're also going to look to actually go in there and physically clean the pond. Potentially, we're waiting for an estimate to come back for that as well, as we have some barrels, things like that in the pond that we really need to clean up. And then we're also looking at potentially geese mitigation here. So again, a lot of things from geese go into that pond, so we're trying to clean it up a little bit. And they have some things they're looking at that could potentially help out the pond, clean the pond. We do have some life in there today. We have frogs, we have snapping turtles, so we're trying to clean up the pond. So it will require two things. Number one, for the board to approve the contract tonight. And the second thing it would also require, which is another amendment, is to actually transfer money from the B fund balance over to this account here for this B7110.41, so that Steve's not impacted in 2022. So we take two separate resolutions. So first one is awarding the contract to Solitude for this maintenance contract. Again, first year, $4,134. Second year, approximately $4,500. We want to do it over a 2-year period so that we can see how the contract's going to work out. Again, use this as a pilot. If it works out good for this pond, we can use it hopefully for other ponds in the town. So I'll make a motion that we accept this.
Second.
Just have
Okay.
one
Jim?
comment with respect to this.
Yeah.
So the contract calls for them to obtain all the permits.
Yes.
I looked at the permitting, and the permitting is for aquatic pesticide application, I believe, is the terminology. What is somewhat unclear based on that is whether or not we need a secret resolution here. I don't believe, I'm not sure if we do or not, but part of this contract, in essence, is for them to get the permits and go through the secret process. One of the obligations is we provide any necessary documentation.
Okay.
The one question is, I believe this may be Blanding's turtle habitat, so I don't know what effect that's going to have on the ability for the town to get the permit and whether we may require additional services to make a study regarding the endangered species habitat.
So where do we go from here then?
I think,
I
again, the
think-
resolution
I
says
think you
that
get it
they'll be-
approved, and then you've got to,
Yeah.
you move forward, you see if there's anything else they need to do, correct?
Yeah, I mean, that's part of it here. I just, so to the extent that,
And again, they handle all the requirements, all the permits that are needed, they work with EPA, whatever they need to do, they're the ones that are going to work specifically with them, so.
I mean, this is, to the extent that this is considered to be a contract for, in essence, obtaining the permits, that's a type 2 action under seeker. So I guess if we make that amendment to the resolution, we can do that. And then, once we get the permits in hand. My concern is that, I know we looked at potentially filling this pond in the past, and we had to get, we had to get a wetland study, because the pond is under the National Wetlands Inventory. That's, regulated by the Corps of Engineers.
So do you want to give us the words for the amendment?
It's a, type 2 action subject to, it's a type 2 action for a study.
Okay.
Regarding the permit.
To the extent that it's necessary.
Right.
Well, the permit is necessary.
Right.
So the question is
Whether or not.
additional,
Additional.
Studies, and I don't, because I
Right.
didn't see anything in here regarding if we have to do a habitat study. I know we've done a study in the past, whether that have to be updated, that might be an additional cost.
So they would be responsible for letting us know that?
What's
And
that?
they'd be responsible for letting us know if there's an additional cost, and then they'd come back to us with, by the way, it's going to cost an extra $1,000 or whatever.
Yeah,
Okay.
Again, we had a study done, so whether that could be reused.
Okay.
So, we have a
We have a motion and a
motion
second.
and second as, recommended to be amended by
Right.
Jim. Okay, motion second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, motion passed.
So
Next.
I think I need the second motion to be able to transfer the funds too.
Okay.
It's all on the same resolution.
As long as it's in the same, because it's not specific here, this just talks about the annual contract, the actual budgeting change needs to be done? Or was my verbiage good enough to say that I need to transfer from the B fund balance over to this B710?
Well, it says the town board hereby authorizes the following budget transfer.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure that we've got it, because I want to make sure Steve is covered
Yeah.
for 2022.
Yeah.
Because again, it's not in his budget today, he's only got $1,000 in that particular line. So as long as everybody's okay with it, it's all part of that resolution,
Yeah,
that's
it's
fine.
part of the resolution.
Okay, good. All right, thank you very much.
Thanks, Jim.
Okay. The next item is Resolution 2021-164. This is a resolution authorizing the execution of dog control housing agreement with Hudson Valley Animal Rescue and Sanctuary. This has been reviewed and approved and discussed by our dog warden.
Did we miss one?
You missed.
Oh, I'm sorry, did I miss
163?
one?
163?
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. Oh, yes. I'll come back to that one. So Resolution 2021-163, resolution authorizing the release of security posted in connection with Route 376 holdings. This is in the amount of $25,177. The site plan is approved, and there's been full compliance with the terms. Right, Barbara?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Motion and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, that motion passes. The next resolution is 2021-164, a resolution authorizing the execution of a dog control housing agreement with Hudson Valley Animal Rescue and Sanctuary. This is what Jerry had discussed with us before, and he's reviewed the facilities and the contract, and Jim and I have reviewed the contract.
I'll move it.
Second.
Okay, motion and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, the motion passes. The next item is Resolution 2021-165. This is a resolution authorizing the water tenancy agreement for gas and petroleum property on Route 9D, as was discussed during the public portion of the meeting.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Motion and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, the motion passes.
Just a question for the gentlemen that are here right now. The two addresses, the 119 and 121 New Hamburg Road, the representative from Chazen, if you could step up for just a second. Just a couple of questions here. These were stipulations or recommendations from the planning board on
Yes.
these are contiguous properties, right? That
Yes.
are adjacent, okay. The 560-foot lineal, 560 lineal feet of 8-inch ductile iron pipe, where is that going again? I know you mentioned it before.
Can I just grab my plan for a
If you
moment?
could, yeah, just so we can understand.
So here is the means of ingress and egress off of New Hamburg Road.
Yes,
The town has an existing 12-inch ductile iron water main here.
yes.
We would be connecting here
Mhm.
and running it along the northern portion of our property
Okay,
up to the rear property line.
okay,
For the board's benefit, the planning board also put a stipulation that in the event that the town was to ever secure an easement from this property owner,
yes,
that's between our property and Marlarville Road,
yes.
Gasland Petroleum would be responsible for installing that remaining 80 feet to the right-of-way of Marlarville Road.
Okay. And how does that terminate? Does that just end at a valve, or how does that,
Right now, it's ending at a valve
okay,
until that time that you're able to secure an easement,
okay.
and then we would end it at a valve as well.
All right, so Jim, down the road here, with respect to that property he's referring to that requires an easement in order to get to Marleville Road,
Yes.
I'm looking for a fire hydrant to be on Marleville Road at the termination of that. And that's something, that's a future discussion, obviously, but we need to, in my opinion, have access to that water from Marleville Road for fire protection purposes.
Sure.
And sir, if you can also show us where the 119 and 121 are with respect to that line.
Here is the service connection.
Yep,
Right here, as you can see, here's the wall. This is all within the pavement, as I indicated earlier.
okay,
Similarly speaking, here is the service connection here. It's going beneath concrete.
got it.
And then making its way over to this property line.
Okay, so those contiguous properties that are adjacent will have an option.
An option of connecting.
Correct, if hooking up.
Okay, that was what I was asking for through this process.
Right,
Okay, I appreciate your explanation of that. Thank you.
thank you.
Any further questions?
No.
Okay. Next item is Resolution 2021-166. This is a resolution introducing the proposed local law entitled, "A Local Law Amending the Town Zoning Map for the Purpose of Rezoning a Property to the R20 District." This is what we refer to as 26 Myers Corner Road. And this was previously an R20 property, as you'll recall.
Yeah, 166. So I reviewed everything that's here. This is a single parcel rezone back to R20, which it was pre-2013. I'd asked for it to be prepared in this fashion, and I'll move this.
I'll second.
Second.
What's the hearing date, Jim? That's blank in the resolution.
January 10th?
10th, that's when our next meeting would be.
Thank you.
Okay? Okay, motion and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, the motion passes. Next resolution is 2021-167. This is a resolution introducing proposed local law entitled Amending Uses Under the Zoning Code in the Conservation Office Park District. This is to allow the self-storage warehouse in the COP, which already allows general warehousing.
Yeah, so again, we discussed at the last meeting if we could have this prepared as a specific resolution for the purposes of identifying this property and the use to this property.
Is
which
it only
this
the
is-
use for this property, or is it more than that at all?
It's
Is
a-
it more than one property, or is
Yeah,
it?
it's a change
Okay,
of
so
uses in
again-
the district.
Want to have the planner come in and explain?
So is this a bundle thing again, or is this, I mean, is it what?
No, it's a text amendment, it's an amendment.
Because we
to
did
the use
26
table.
Myers separate, now you're not,
Right, because this one is an existing Conservation Office Park District parcel. So you're basically, by text amendment, allowing for indoor storage to be,
Self-storage.
excuse me, indoor self-storage to be an option within the existing uses of that ward. So if someone else, for example, was going to come in with a COP parcel, they'd have to go before the planning board in order for that to be addressed anyway. This, I believe, still has to go to the planning board after our action, correct?
Yes, it gets referred to the
Okay.
planning board,
And I
as
believe-
does 26 miles.
Yeah, so,
Yeah.
right. So, in this case, I understand your
You know
concern,
what?
Al, but I think that this is pretty straightforward, and the gentleman in the back, Supervisor, did want to comment.
Yes, yeah. This is, again, our COP, the previous one was CCD, so come on up, talk.
Just to clarify, there's only two parcels in the town
Right.
of COP. It's the old Fairchild site, which
Okay.
is a Superfund
Yeah,
site.
yeah. Oh,
and
COP,
it's
right.
this particular parcel. So
Okay.
This isn't bundled at all. This is
Right,
just-
the other one was the
Okay.
it was the other one, it was conservation.
Yeah, CCD.
CCD,
Yes.
Flavor-Matic, COP.
Yeah, again, if it's all these two, I'm okay with it, so,
Yeah, so Fairchild has nothing on it, and it's, I believe, a brownfield
Right.
anyway.
Okay.
So-
Yes.
Right, it is.
All right, yeah, so I have no objection to this.
then I'll move it.
Second.
Okay, motion and second, all in favor? Aye. Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, the motion passed. Next item, Resolution 2021-168 should be tabled along with the previous tabled companion resolution. This is a resolution authorizing budget transfer for confidential secretary position.
Thank you.
So I'll just move, just to keep it clean here, I'll move it
Second.
just for further
Yeah.
discussion in executive session.
Okay, motion and second, all in favor? Aye. Nays or abstentions, seeing none, the motion passed. The next item is Resolution 2021-169, authorizing transfer of funds. This is, set forth from A line, this is $2,700, A0917 to A12. Oh, no, that's
No,
a
that's
different
wrong.
one. No, this is a longer one. You
Yeah.
have a long list. Are they lined up now correctly? Is Frederick here? No, it looks like they're lined
Yeah,
up
Frederick's
correctly.
here. It's in the back.
Frederick, you want to just come up and discuss these?
I think we need to, because some of this is sensitive information. Some of this is personnel stuff on here, some of the changes. If you look at some of the transfers, so if you look at the descriptions on some of these, we may want to,
Executive session?
yeah, executive session.
Okay,
on this
that's
one.
fine. We can ask.
And Frederick and I talked earlier, so we,
Yes, he mentioned it. Yeah,
Yep.
understand. Okay, so why don't we have a motion?
I'll
to
make a
table?
motion to table it.
Okay. Okay, motion table, and second, all in favor? Aye. Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, motion passes. Next item is Resolution 2021-170. This is on acknowledging the correspondence log.
Move.
Second.
Okay, motion and second, all in favor? Aye. Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, that motion passed. Is there any, are there any items for special consideration, new business at this time? Okay, seeing none, do we have a motion to go in executive session
I'll make the
for
motion to go into-
personnel, discussion, as
Contract
well as
negotiation.
the money transfers for personnel issues?
And then
Okay,
also
motion
contract-
second?
Second, yeah.
Also contract negotiations.
Yeah, contract negotiation, correct. And legal report. Okay. Huh?
Second.
So, okay, motion and second. All in favor? Aye. Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, motion passes. We'll be back.